make it that way. And all mothers today that are in attendance here today, you have a story. It could have started back with your grandparents and how your parents were raised, and then how your parents were raised and how they raised you, and then how you're raising your children. And so the stories get intermingled together, all these stories. And so this morning, I've asked 4 of the members here to share. They're going to share just a little bit about their story, somewhere between, say high school and now. That's just going to give us a little glimpse of who they are. And so, okay, Nikki? Okay.
Happy Mother's Day, guys. So my story, I'm not going to go very far back because it's not a very happy story. I lived a lot of my life, my first part of my life, in sin. I was a young mother, and I was on a really dark path. I didn't believe in God. I totally used to just put him out of my mind, and I believed he wasn't there because of all the things that was wrong in my life. I blamed him for it. And at one point, I almost lost my children. I actually gave them to my mom for a couple years and continued to live in sin. And then God put Blake in my life, and although we were both living in sin, for some reason we were meant to be together, and things got better after I got pregnant with Axel. We got sober, and Blake helped me. Even though things were going bad for us, I would always say, God hated me, there's no God, and he would tell me that that's not possible because God is love. There's no way he could hate you. And I just kept watching him, and as we were growing together and in our soberness, I would watch him kneel at bed at night, and he would pray, and I was like, okay, and it was doing something for him, and he was growing, and I think that we both felt that although our life was getting better, we were missing something, and so I just suggested one day maybe we should go to church. I could learn a lot. I would like to come back to God and have what you have, and so God led us to Tucker Road Baptist Church. So, and now. It used to be dark, and now everything's light, and I'm not numb. I can feel things the way I'm supposed to feel, and I have my children. I have all my children, and I'm a lucky person. I'm a lucky mom, and so thank you, God, and that's just...
Well, I was actually born in the Dalles, and I was raised there. My family wasn't particularly a church-going family, but my mother was a believer. She was a Lutheran, and she made sure that we knew the significance of all the Christian holidays. We went to Sunday school, VBS. She taught us real Christian values, and my dad too. Even though he wasn't a believer, he did become a believer later in life, and so I was raised there. I graduated from high school there. I moved to Portland, and I met Jerry, and we were married in 1969, and during high school I always went to church, pretty much with friends in high school. We went to Calvary Baptist in the Dalles. I went to the First Christian Church in the Dalles, so I've attended a lot of different churches in my life. And his family was actually Episcopalian. So when we were married, I went through the confirmation classes, and Paul and Colin were actually christened, and I was baptized there. It was sprinkling at that time. And we took the kids to Sunday school and church. In their formative years, however, as they got older, we all stopped going, and I blame myself for that. A lot of that was that I was working full-time, and it was just really hard to get to church on Sundays. We sort of looked at Sundays as family day. And most of you know I had a handicapped son who passed away in 2006, so I had a special child. And I also had a remarkable child, Colin, which is here today. And so we had a little bit of both in our life, and it was a real blessing to us. And anyway, we stopped going to church, and kids grew up. Colin went off to college, and we had put Paul in a group home in Portland. He was like 25 at the time, and he just needed to grow up, and so we thought this was the thing he should do. So anyway, we were having some issues. He hated it there. He didn't want to stay there. So he would come home on weekends, and this one Sunday, him and I were just at odds, just arguing, having a really rough morning. And I said, Paul, do you want to go to church? And I have to say that Debbie, who a lot of you know, Debbie Liddon, Bayday, who has been a friend of mine since we were in our early 20s, she was working with me at that time, and she had been bringing Paul to church here. Just to give Jerry and I a little break on Sunday mornings, because it was kind of a hard time in our lives. And so anyway, we had this little row in the morning, and I said, do you want to go to church today? And he said, yeah. And I says, do you want to go to the Episcopal church where we used to go, or do you want to go to Tucker Road? He says, well, I want to go to Tucker Road. So I brought him to church, and I just found so much love and acceptance here. I found a lot of acceptance for our child who was different, and yet everybody loved him, and everybody just included him as part of the church family. And so him and I started coming here, and we kept praying for his dad to come. And every Sunday, Paul would say, Dad, you coming to church today? If you knew Paul, you'd know that's how he would said it. And he'd say, no, not today. Paul would say, Dad, you need to come to church and be baptized. And so him and I had gone forward, and he had accepted Jesus. And after maybe a few months coming here, and I had recommitted my life to Christ, and we were actually baptized together. So anyway, for a couple years, Jerry did not come. And then one Sunday, I looked around, and he was sitting right next to me, and I just couldn't believe it. It's just like my heart was just like a prayer had been answered, because we had been praying. Paul and I had prayed for a long time for him to come. So then he started coming, and of course we lost him in 2006, and I really don't know what I would have done without my church family at that time. Everybody was just so loving and caring, and so anyway, Jerry started coming, and he eventually accepted Jesus and joined the church and was baptized. And I'm just so proud of the growth that he has had here at Tucker Road. And so Paul would be very proud today, I know that, of his dad. And so anyway, I'd just like to wish you all a happy Mother's Day. And if you still have your mother, cherish her, because when they're gone, they're just gone. And you never forget them, but keep them special in your heart. So that's all.
Good morning. So I was actually raised in this church. Since I was 18 months old, Mom brought us to this church. So I did my growing up here. So a lot of these faces I recognize from a very little age. They've all seen me grow up and move on. I graduated from Hood River Valley High School and got married at a young age. Not the best choice at that time, but I still got married at a young age. I had my beautiful daughter, Ella, who is she's 6'2", beautiful daughter, who is in Texas right now with my husband, who I met in Texas. It took me on to Texas in different places, and trying to figure out life and what we're going to do and where we're going to go, and what's the best choice for the family. And we came back here about 4 years ago, thinking, after praying, this is where we needed to be, which we still believe, because we're here, or at least I'm here at the moment. They're still in Texas. She is getting ready to graduate from high school next year. And we let her make that decision that she wants to graduate with her class. So she will stay in Houston with my husband and graduate, so right now we're separated. And I'm here working. But this is truly home, and we're home. And it's just a blessing to be here. So, happy Mother's Day.
No. The worst. I got married when I was 16, which was not a good thing to do, but you know, I was like Becky, I was going to do it no matter what. And I had 2 children during that marriage, and I was involved with the Jehovah's Witness Church, which is not a fun thing. It's a cult, and it's just, you know, it was just a nightmare. And I had to get out, so I did. And at 16, I got married, so at 26, I was divorced, and I had 2 children. I didn't know how I was going to make it in this world. I mean, I had never been on my own. I got, you know, I lived at home, and then I got married, and now all of a sudden I don't only have myself to take care of, but I have 2 kids. And I thought, how am I going to do this, you know? But I just plugged along, and I thought, I'm going to do this. And I did. And I have 2 beautiful children. They both went to college. They're pretty well set, you know. They're wonderful kids. Then I raised my 2 grandchildren. They lived with me the whole time, and they're grown. And, well, they think they're grown. I don't think they're grown, but they still have to listen to abuela. They call me abuela, which is grandma in Spanish. And they still have to listen to abuela. And it's kind of funny because my daughter and the kids lived with me and from the time they were born. And so sometimes now I don't live there. I moved in to take care of my mother. I became the prime caregiver for my whole family. Not by choice, but I just had to. So I moved in with my mom when she got really sick to take care of her. And so then after she died, I just stayed there. And then my husband at that time, we got married after my mom died. He was a lifetime friend. I mean, I had known him for years, and it was just, he was like my best friend. And so we got married, and he's the one that really taught me about God. Because my family, my aunts all went to church, and I went to Sunday school sometimes with them and different things. But Robert really, he studied every day, and he talked with me every day, and we went to church together. The church we were going to was dissolved, and he was getting really sick. And so you know, he had oxygen, he had so many things that we had to do. And he kept saying he wanted to go to the Odell Church because he knew Rick Plank. And I said, well, we can go. And he goes, no, let's wait till I feel a little better, because he felt embarrassed that he had to take all this paraphernalia with him, you know. And he was on a really strong water pill, so every 15 minutes he was in the bathroom, and he goes, you know, I don't want to do that. I feel embarrassed. Oh, well, they won't care. No, he said, as soon as I get better. Well, of course, he didn't ever get better. And I said, well, let's just go to the Tucker Road Church. I said, it's really close here. No, he says, I don't want to take the stuff over there. I don't know it. I don't know that church, and I don't know those people. So he wouldn't come. So he passed away in August. And I don't know, there was just such a drawing point to me to come here. I can't explain it. I just knew I had to come. And so I told my daughter when she was going by one day, I said, look at the sign and see what time their service starts. So she come home and she told me 11 o'clock. So I said, okay, I'm going to be there. I don't care if I don't know anybody. I'm going. And so I did. And I came in, I sat in the last pew back there. And I didn't know anybody when they were coming in, except Carolee. And I recognized her. She had worked at the Packin House, and so I recognized her. And everybody made me feel so welcome. And I just knew I was home. I was home. And then I got baptized. Pastor baptized me, and my kids have been coming a little bit, you know. They don't come all the time, but my son lives in Eugene, so he doesn't come. But she still calls me on the phone, and she'll say, Mom, You got to talk to your grandson because he did this. They're grown. They're 25 and 22. But they still have to ask Abuela if it's okay. So that's my story.
So we saw a little bit about their stories. Just a small little snapshot of their life we heard. And so that's their story. Now let's look at the story. We need the lights again. The story that overrides all stories.
There is